requires 2 binder sticks, like 1, and then it would require...
How many wraps are you gonna do though for that?
You could do like 4 wraps is ideal.
Okay.
This takes about like 40 to 50% more rope than it does to do diagonal lashing.
Yep.
So like I avoid it somewhat for that reason, but also it takes twice as many binder sticks.
Yep.
Okay.
I like to use these when the bamboo is getting loaded in such a way that it's like highly likely to slip going in this direction.
Okay.
Like this provides a lot more like slip resistance than a diagonal lashing would. For almost every lashing, a diagonal lashing is like more than enough. All the Dylan's climbing structures that he did last year, every single lashing was a diagonal, and every single one held.
Yep.
So when I do a diagonal lashing with a pin, I'll typically, I won't split the pin on the rope. So I'll have, like splitting the pin would be having rope on both sides. Like a lot of times, I'll just do my binder lashing on one side, like the top side of one and the bottom side of the other. What is this piece going for? Is this
It's an A-frame. Going up.
A-frame is going up?
Yep.
In that case, I might do
On either side of the
yeah. This case, I'm gonna do 2.
You are going to split it.
Yeah, I'll split it. And then, familiar with double fisherman?
Yep.
Explain it for us.
Top one, so I'll do 3. So it's a total of 6 wraps. So when I'm doing my lashings, I always try to pull as much of the slack out initially as I can. And then my method for doing double fisherman, I have the 2 pieces of rope going alternating through the palm of my hand. I put my thumb on top. This would be the standing end, and this would be the working end. I take the standing end and I wrap it around my thumb twice when my thumb is on top of the working end. That creates an X. Then I take the standing end and I pop it through the hole that my thumb creates when I remove it.
In the opposite direction of the working end, right?
Yeah, so it's... So then when I do my second one, I try to pull as much of the slack through as possible. So that way when I tie this knot, there's less overall rope that's in the middle.
That's slack to pick up.
Yeah, and then it's less turns. And then also because it's super hot out here and the macate stretches a lot, then it makes it so that it's easier to keep your lashing tight. And then when I'm tightening it, I pull this fisherman down. Fisherman's basically a slip knot, and the double fisherman is 2 slip knots that are stopping against each other. And I try to work out as much of the slack as I can. And it's pretty key to pull it tight. You can also use a binder stick to kind of lever it tight. Any of the rope if these 2 knots, these 2 fishermen's aren't stuck together tight, when you tighten it, it's going to pull that slack out and you'll end up with one strand that's loose and hanging out. It's a super common thing that you'll see from like an improperly dressed lashing.
And just hammer that bad boy down a little bit.
Yeah. And then for the placement of the binder stick, actually,
So you want to work the rope, right, to get it kind of even?
yeah, so I do want to work the rope to get all the strands so that the strands have about the same amount of slack. And one thing to notice about the direction of this diagonal lashing is if it's a 90 degree, it doesn't matter what orientation that you put the rope, but since this is at an extreme angle, you want to put the rope through the wide part of the angle. If you put it through this narrow part of the angle, you don't get as good of a bite. And then it also, like the rope is working to splay these apart. It doesn't really seem to work as well. Sometimes it can get tricky with the placement of the binder stick just because you can get stuck with no place to turn it. So I'm gonna be putting my binder stick on this end, and the direction that you start it also matters. So for this one, I want to be able to push down in this direction and then twist. Twisting in this direction. Not other way.
You got it right.
Yeah. Since I made it super tight, one twist already has it where I need to hammer it. This binder stick's gonna
Not
break.
gonna break. Yeah. It's need a thicker binder stick.
Yeah, it needs to be this nice flat shape. Cool, getting it. I like my binder sticks to be like more than a ½ inch thick. Like if I can have like a 2 centimeter binder stick, those seem to work really well.
Ones from last year we had her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, it's a nice fatty.
So you're just tapping it just to where the end of the binder stick's barely covering the rope so you can get a good turn, right?
Yeah, it's important to get the binder stick in as much as possible so you can get it into the little tight corner.
Can you hold it?
I got it.
You got it? You're hitting the bamboo. Yeah, bring it up. There you go.
And then the major benefit of the binder stick over doing frapping or some other lashing is that you can continually come back and turn it and twist it and get it more tight. And the amount of tightness that we're getting from twisting the rope is far tighter than any frap can ever achieve.
Beautiful.
And then lastly, for the tails, if you don't want to have any chance of the tails coming apart, it's important that when you cut them, like if I was to cut it right here, it's unlikely but possible that this could get sucked into here. And the rule of thumb for double fishermans is that when you cut them, you want to be able to touch the two tips together.
Beautiful.
This is also like the knot of choice for making slings. I climb on a double fisherman's.
Nice.
And what else? The one thing that I would say about the placement of this pin, and it matters the most for load-bearing pins and on bamboo that has these smaller walls. This one is within an inch of a node, and this one's about 4 inches away. The closer you get to the center, the less structural integrity that the pin provides.
Yeah.
Ideally, I like to keep my pins like within an inch or so of the nodes.
Better to have like an a hollow part at the end, like the difference at the other end that's in the ground. But then, you know what I mean? Like say, there's sometimes we're cutting it here, so the node starts there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then make our measure point.
like
it's more important for the binding to be on a node.
Yeah, it's super important for the binding to be on a node. It's also like the side that's in the ground that's kind of like a little bit less important for the node to be like right at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's pretty important for a node to be at the top to keep the integrity of the top of the pole. And then also like 70% of building with bamboo is material selection. It's like in order for these things to work, a lot of times I'll look through 20 poles to find the one that I want, that has the right straightness or the right curve or the appropriate like spacing of the nodes.
Right.
So spending that little bit of extra time to find the node spacing at the particular spot on the pole that you want, if it's load bearing, that can matter quite a bit. It can mean the difference in between like something being easy or potentially failing, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
If it's just facade panels and it's not being loaded with weight or being climbed on, if it's non-interactive, you can get away with more center node, like having a longer internodal distance where you're pinning.
Yeah.
And then also if the walls are thicker, you can get away with that too. Like if I'm working with like a pretty thick wall dendro pole or like a big fatty guadua, then like I don't mind as much poking a hole wherever and pounding in a pin.
Cool.
Yeah, does that more or less make sense? Perfect.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right.
Great. Yeah.
Binder stick, pin, binder stick, and fisherman lashing, double fisherman lashing 101.
Yeah, the one other thing I will say about the pins is like as you're pounding in the pins, like the most ideal diameter for the pin, like once you get into making them a lot, is when there's like a couple little fibers that are kind of like curling up as you're pounding it through. That's I always feel like that's just like the exact right amount of snugness.
Yeah.
And then also if your pins are too fat, you'll split the bamboo.
Yeah. So always happy medium.
Yeah, there's always that like happy spot.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, cheers. Appreciate it.